and the church is telling you that being gay is wrong and so forth. So you're struggling with that whole dichotomy.
My name is Nakima Levy Armstrong. I am a civil rights attorney, the founder of the Racial Justice Network, and yes, an ordained reverend.
One of the main motivations as to why they stormed the church. Let's talk about it.
What's that?
You think I'm sinful because I'm married to a man?
Yeah.
You do?
Yes, you're sinning. You are in a sinful relationship.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good night. I hope all is well. I'm trying to get this sun out of my face. We know that Nakia Levy Armstrong was, and also Chantel Allen, amongst others, were arrested due to the protests at the church in Minnesota. And we know that, Don Lemon was released, but he was charged with the interference of religious freedom. And I'm going to just speak really short. I'm going to speak on, I believe, what was his motivation. Now we know that he says that he was just a journalist doing his job.
I'm just chronicling. I'm not with the group. I'm a journalist. They're activists.
But we all know, those who know, we know that he just was not a journalist in this situation. He was a protester. He was a protester with a camera and a mic. That's what he was. Because we know that he was in on the planning. We know that he knew Nakima Levy Armstrong, and we knew that he knew what was going to happen, right?
Don, the indictment says that you protected the address. You protected the element of surprise. You kissed the organizer on camera. Do you consider yourself a participant or a journalist?
We on your side.
Participating by saying don't
We got your back.
Location?
Okay.
How are you?
Good.
Good to see you. We're on. We're not saying what it is, what's going on, but thank you. Tell us why you're doing this.
So
This is Nakima Levy Armstrong. She's on the show
Nakima
on
Levy
Friday.
Armstrong, civil rights attorney, longtime activist here in the community.
And a lot of people are saying, he shouldn't have been arrested. He was just doing his job. No, he wasn't. You can't interfere with religious services. You can't do that, because, and they're saying, well, it's his First Amendment right. No, when it comes to private property, and practicing your faith, you cannot do that due to the FACE Act. The FACE Act, the Freedom of Access to Clinic Entrance. The FACE Act of 1994 is a federal law prohibiting the use of force, threat of force, or physical obstruction to injure, intimidate, or interfere with anyone obtaining or providing reproductive health services. It is also protects places of religious worship. Violations can lead to federal fines. Violations can lead to federal fines and imprisonment. But we know, again, that this was Don Lemon's purpose. And I'm going to tell you the real reason why this happened. And it's not solely due to the behavior of ICE, right? These are people who have an issue with the church, right? Don Lemon is a black man. He's gay, right? He's homosexual. He claims to be Christian.
I'm always worship. I'm a Christian.
We're here
In the religious groups like that, it's not the type of Christianity that I practice.
A lot of the Christians inform him that his lifestyle is not of God, right? And he has a problem with that. He has a problem with that. And this is why he had no problem going into the church, right? Going into the church that is a church, probably a conservative church, right? More than likely a church that is on the side of Trump, right? And we know that he is against Trump, due to numerous reasons. But the main reason is he had no problem going into the church because he has an issue with the church due to his lifestyle. Again, he claims to be Christian. Many of us believers, we say, no, you're not Christian. You're not. And he has an issue with that. And this is why, again, he had no issue, no problem going into that church. Now, Nakima Levy Armstrong as well. You can tell by how she introduced herself that she has an issue with the church.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Nakima Levy Armstrong. I am a civil rights attorney, the founder of the Racial Justice Network, and yes, an ordained reverend. Let me repeat that again, an ordained reverend, which I have been since 2016.
Did you hear that? Did you hear that? She had to repeat herself. Yes, I am an ordained reverend. Yes, I am an ordained reverend. Let me say that again, because you know why? People, Christians, the church has an issue with her position, right? Being a leader in the church or being called reverend in the church as a woman. It goes against the Bible. It goes against the Bible. And you can tell that she has had her arguments. You can tell that she has had her run-ins and debates or whatever with Christians on how she is to act in a church or the position that she is supposed to have in the church, right? And one of them is not reverend. Matter of fact, I don't think anyone should be called reverend in the church. No one was called reverend in the Bible. They were called pastor, elders, but none of them were called reverend. I believe that you only give reverence to God, right? But we see here that, again, they had no problem going into the church because they have issues with the church. They did not care who they intimidated. They did not care who they had affected. They wanted to get this man, this pastor, this church a wake up call because they heard that he has affiliation with ICE, right? The pastor. Though that is the motivation, and you can see that they had no problem breaking into that church. They had no problem storming that church. They had no problem storming that church because number one, the pastor is a man, and number two, again, is more than likely a conservative church, right? It's more than likely a Bible-based church, right? We will see what happens. Again, we know that Don Lemon was arrested. We know that he is going to continue to fight. We know that there are people on his side who is informing him or informing the world that he was a journalist. He was a journalist. He was doing what he was supposed to do. He was doing his job. Nope. This man was a protester hiding behind the title of journalist so he would not get in trouble, so that he would not get caught. But you know what? It didn't work. He got arrested, right? He got arrested. And some are trying to make this a black thing. Some are trying to make this a racial thing. No, look, when you break the law, there's consequences for that. When you break the law, there's consequences for that. And you know, Don Lemon and the rest of the crew, they just have to realize that there's consequences. You know, we didn't know that Don Lemon was going to get arrested, but he was arrested. He was, because he broke the law. It's plain and simple. You cannot go into a church and disrupt service like that. You just can't disrupt service like that. That's against the law, right? So those are my 2 cents. Let's go into some scriptures. Let's go to Romans 13. And it says, everyone must submit to the governing authorities, for all authority comes from God, and those in positions of authority have been placed there by God. So anyone who rebels against authority is rebelling against what God has instituted, and they will be punished. For the authorities do not strike fear in people who are doing right, but in those who are doing wrong. Would you like to live without fear of the authorities? Do what is right, and they will honor you. The authorities are God's servants, sent for your good. But if you are doing wrong, of course you should be afraid, for they have the power to punish you. They are God's servants, sent for the very purpose of punishing those who do what is wrong. So you must submit to them, not only to avoid punishment, but also to keep a clear conscience. Respect the authorities. And Don Lemon, I don't know, he just seemed like he didn't know the law. I believe he said in one interview that a misdemeanor is not a crime.
Okay, crossing the border illegally is not a crime?
No, it's not a criminal act. It's a
Okay.
misdemeanor.
So why are they being sent back and saying that they're breaking the law?
That's the point.
Okay, as somebody that actually...
We don't know if they're breaking the law because they won't tell. There's no due process. Where's the evidence? That's the whole point.
You're not breaking the law if you commit a misdemeanor. I don't think that makes sense. It is a crime. It's not a felony, but it is a crime. But let me know your thoughts. You know, Don Lemon, Nakima, you know, they have an issue with the church. They have an issue with the church because of their title, because of their lifestyle, because of who they are. They have an issue. And that is the main reason. That is one of the main reasons why they had no problem storming into a church. None. Because they don't read the Bible and they don't take church as a sacred place. They don't take the church building as a sacred place, the sanctuary as a sacred place, because they want to live how they want to live and then say that God is okay with it. And then get mad when we call them out for it, right? Let me know your thoughts. God bless you all. Be safe.